Welcome back. Man, dude, the names in the last one really got me. I've been saying Girgashites for a while. We're in chapter 11. We're talking Tower of Babel. A lot of spooky stuff around this. I'll share you a little, I'll throw a couple little fun details in there. So I read, I believe it was the book of Jasher. And in it, when it refers to Babel and Nimrod, and this is just fun facts, this is later in this book, I think later in Genesis, it refers to the book of Jasher as like, this was written about in Jasher. So there's some kind of validity to Jasher. Some stuff's a little weird and crazy, but in any event, in Jasher, it colors all of this time period in a lot. Cool things, though. It says that Shem, I believe, the oldest, he gets passed down from Noah the skins that God made for Adam and Eve, because God's touched these things. They're like, they're just imbued with power. God's just so powerful. Like he can't even touch something and it not be elevated. So the clothes that they actually wore that God made for them were like the mushroom in Super Mario. You're just like, doo, 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 doo. So in Jasher, it says that Shem had these. I believe it was Shem. He has these. And then Nimrod steals them and is wearing them. And this is how he goes, like, he starts getting very reminiscent of Nephilim, where he becomes this crazy good hunter. He's like ultra athletic, super intelligent, ultra strong, like just, it's like you're playing the video game, you just max out all the stats. So he's stat maxing, and this is how they start to, he gets these 7 nations, and he's building Babel up to be like the Mecca of all of the nations. And it says about Babel that it was 3 days journey across. Now that could be the city itself or the tower. I don't remember, but either way, it was a massive city. And the tower was so large, and they had gotten so incredibly far with it, that eventually it collapses. The earth eats part of it, and the rest of it is out there. And it says, and the Tower of Babel fell, and half of it is still out of the ground. It's like a testament to like, this is something that happened. You can go and see it's still sticking out of the ground. So really cool. Really cool. And then it gets into like Nimrod with Terah. Terah is Abraham's dad, and he's trying to, he basically like Pontius Pilate's or Pharaoh Moses's kind of thing, where he's like killing the firstborn. That happens with Nimrod and Terah. Nimrod's trying to kill Abram. So, maybe. But it's also cool. It says that Abram lived with Noah. Noah was kicking around for a very long time after this. So there's like that crossover, which then bridges Abram to Noah to like 2 other guys and then Adam. So it's, I don't know, it's very interesting. Anyway, boy, that was an intro. Let's get into it. Genesis 11. Now the whole earth used the same language and the same words, and it came about as they journeyed east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, which I believe is like Promised Landy, somewhere around there, and settled there. And they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly." And they used brick for stone, and they used tar for mortar. And they said, "Come, let us build for ourselves a city and a tower whose top will reach into heaven. And let us make for ourselves a name, otherwise we will be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth." And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. And the Lord said, "Behold, they are one people, and they all have the same language." And this is what they began to do. and now nothing which they purpose to do will be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and there and confuse their language, so that they will not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad over the face of the whole earth, and they stopped building the city. Therefore, its name was called Babel, because the Lord confused the language of the whole earth. And from there, the Lord scattered them abroad over the face of the whole earth. These are the records of the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and became the father of Arpachshad 2 years after the flood. And Shem lived 500 years after he became the father of Arpachshad. And he had other sons and daughters. Arpachshad lived 35 years and became the son of Shelah. And Arpachshad lived 430 years after he became the father of Shelah. And he had other sons and daughters. Shelah lived 35 years and became the father of Eber and Shelah, and lived 403 years after he became the father of Eber, and he had other sons and daughters. Eber lived 34 years and became the father of Peleg, and Eber lived 430 years after he became the father of Peleg, and he had other sons and daughters. Peleg lived 30 years and became the father of Reu, and Peleg lived 290 years after he became the father of Reu, and he had other sons and daughters. Reu lived 32 years and became the father of Serug, and Reu lived 207 years after he became the father of Serug, and he had other sons and daughters. Serug lived 30 years and became the father of Nahor, and Serug lived 200 years after he became the father of Nahor, and he had other sons and daughters. Nahor lived 29 years, and he became the father of Terah, Abram, and Terah and Nahor lived 119 years after he became the father of Terah, and he had other sons and daughters. Terah lived 70 years, and he became the father of Abram. It's a long time compared to all these other guys. Just take note. Nahor and Haran. Now, these are the records of the generations of Terah. Terah became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran became the father of Lot. He'll pop up a little bit later. Haran died in the presence of his father Terah in the land of his birth in Ur of the Chaldeans. Abram and Nahor took wives for themselves. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and Iscah. Sarai was barren. She had no child. Terah took Abram his son, and Lot, the son of Haran, his grandson, and Sarai, his daughter-in-law, his son's Abram's wife, and they went out together from Ur of the Chaldeans in order to enter the land of Canaan, and they went as far as Haran and settled there. The days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. So, let's back up. Let's go to the Tower of Babel. So, I already gave you a little prelude on that. It's real cool. But again, the discussion about Peleg and what was happening to the earth kind of lends itself to a less spooky version of what the Tower of Babel is, that it was imperative for man to scatter across the earth, otherwise you'd have unpopulated continents. So it was important, as the land masses were separating at a rapid rate, that we were getting people around. And that's kind of what the name Peleg is lending itself to, and why the Tower of Babel was such a big deal. The other, more spooky version is that they were building some sort of citadel that had, like, we were getting into breakaway technology again. Remember, the pyramids, and if there's giant coils underneath the pyramids, whatever they are, that are, the circumference of the earth thing that's built into it, pointing to true north, and having, the star alignments and all this kind of stuff. Crazy technology. They had breakaway civilization technology back then that we're probably discovering some of that now. Like that hidden technology stuff and like just UAEs, whatever. Anyway, UAPs. it's possible, and I would say pretty likely, that they were getting toward that again. I mean, look at what we're doing now, where the whole earth, for the most part, is not in any sort of like, well, I guess at the very moment, we've been at war. That's kind of destabilizing things a little bit for the last like 8 or 9 years. But overall, it's not like crazy invasions and, just completely stopping and stifling the growth of the world kind of deal, right? These nations were smaller. They were heavily populated for a long time after this, but you would just have like a whole, like there'd be one library and it would just get burned. And then that's it. You just got sent back to the Stone Ages. Nobody knows how to do anything anymore. So at this point, it's like now everybody speaks the same language, but the added advantage they have is nobody's dead. Everybody's alive for the most part. A couple of guys are sitting in those low 200s, but they're having children at 30 and then living till 200. They're having children at 30 and then their children are having children at 30. So everybody's alive. Great, great, great grandchildren are alive all the same time. It's crazy. Everybody speaks the same language. And so the knowledge boom is just immense. We're getting breakaway civilization again. If the stuff in Jasher is correct and Nimrod is getting like some Nephilim kind of stuff happening, maybe they're remembering some of the Mount Hernon kind of stuff that's happened with the Watchers. Who knows? Don't actually know. But this also lends itself to there being some breakaway technology happening again, some breakaway civilization stuff where God is like, all right, that's enough. We already dealt with this once. We're not doing it again. And we're just a few hundred years into this, and they're already back at it. So he comes down, and he decides we need to... It's the communication. That's the problem. So he splits up the communication, and then, it's a screeching halt. And then, yes, everybody basically Stone Ages. There would be groups of people that know this and groups of people that know that, and they cannot communicate with each other. And so it puts the ultimate brakes on everything. Growth stops and probably declines after that. So after this is where you get so many similarities in myth, right? These guys, some of their children's names were Egypt. Some of these guys' names, they had the Amorites, Egypt. And so there's, in their gods, in their myths, in their lore, in their legends and stuff, you get so much crossover. You get in ancient Egypt, you get Set, who has a similar origin to Seth, and Ra and Adam, Eve, and all. There's a lot of crossover between things. And then you see crossover with other things. You see versions of the same gods popping up other places that were, either people were being visited by some sort of, demon or alien thing Dagon and those kinds of stuff. So, but you can kind of see where the myths and where all the similarities come from. If everybody's getting everything handed down to them from Noah to his 3 sons, and his 3 sons are dispersing that out, and then and everybody's got the same thing, and all these guys are alive at the same time. So they're all getting source material from Noah, who basically got source material from Adam. Those guys, once the language is stopped, now they can no longer communicate with Shem, Ham, and Japheth anymore. Everything just is I think this is what he said, and it just myth after that. right? And also, no one was alive before the flood. So all those stories are just kind of like, was that real? I don't know. Maybe Noah and his family were the Adam and Eve kind of deal. You know what I mean? So it's like, do you really trust it anymore? You lose your identity with these people because you don't speak their same language anymore. So it really shapes how we see things now. It's kind of hard to even imagine what life was like with the whole world being located in one kind of central location, everybody speaking the same language, and having like they're one step away, two steps away from creation itself. Yeah, it's very odd. It's a very interesting time. So there's a lot of cool stuff there. You know, I've never mind. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one. Read your Bible.